Well, I finally did it. I went out and I got myself a brand new tackle box. I got it just for this video. The video that I'm going to be doing today is going to show you how to put together a good all-around tackle box if you're going to be fishing in Central Oregon. So this particular tackle box, I got it for $17 down at Bi-Mart. It's a fairly good sized one. I really like this flip up lid on the top. You got some extra storage up in there. And then it's got one good big bug in there. It has one good sized tray section, as well as plenty of storage down here in the bottom. Now, before we really get going on this, I want to talk just a little bit about why this is my first brand new tackle box. I grew up in a family of outdoorsmen, and of course there was plenty of fishing going on. And throughout my life, it seems like just about all of my fishing gear has either been handed down to me, by family members, or I've picked up a lot of garage sale specials. If you really know what you're doing and you know what to look for, getting used stuff at garage sales, 99% of the time it's going to work just as good as the brand new stuff. There's really no reason that you have to go out and get brand new gear, especially if you're starting out. You need to learn what kind of gear that you're actually going to be using before you go spend a bunch of money on stuff. So, garage sales and thrift stores, they're decent places to go look and see what they've got. I went ahead and got this tackle box specifically for this video. All my other tackle boxes, they look pretty bad. They function fine, but they look bad. So let's go ahead and get this started. I should say that this video is just based on my opinions on what works for me, what's worked for my family. I'm not saying that, this is the only gear that's ever going to work, or you can't use anything else, or you have to use this stuff, or, you got to go out and you really got to learn, from other fishermen and from your own experiences what's going to work for you. So just consider this video a basic tutorial and understand that this is just what works for me. First thing you're going to need is a decent selection of hooks. First and foremost, you want to find yourself like some number 8s, number 6s. These right here, they're equivalent to a size 8. There's some hooks that I tied myself onto my own leader, and I'll be using these primarily for trout. This is going to be when I'm going to be using like grubs or fishing worms. You can use power bait on them, but they don't quite stick as well. And that brings us to treble hooks. For here in Central Oregon, a good size 12 or a size 14, that's just about the right size. I mean, you can go bigger, you can go smaller, but for me, this is, what works the best. Most commonly, I'll be using this with power bait. You can make a little ball about 3/8 of an inch in diameter and bury the hook into it. And you can also use this for kokanee fishing. When we kokanee fish over at Wickiup Reservoir, we'll have a little piece of crawdad on one tine, a piece of white corn on another tine, and a red fish egg on the last one. And then you're going to need yourself some decent, larger size bait holder hooks. This is the kind of hook that I like to use for catching catfish. It's your number one bait holder hook, and you may be able to see it in here on the photo. I'm not quite sure. You can just see these two little dark spots. Those are barbs that are on the back shank of the hook. And what that allows you to do, you can take a half a worm, pass this hook through it, 3 or 4 times so you get a pretty good ball. And those little barbs, they help keep the worm further up onto the shank of the hook so that the catfish is more likely to take it further into their mouth, before you hook up on them. And you can see right here, I have some similar hooks that are already pre-rigged with the little floats on them. If you want to know more about that, look up my previous video on how to snell your own hooks and make a catfish rig. Next, we're going to talk about sinker selection. So really, you just need 2 different kinds of sinkers. You're going to want a decent assortment of your split shots. And then you're also going to want a decent assortment of slip sinkers. I prefer the ones that have the hole that goes all the way through the middle of them. These are the best for when you're rigging up a Carolina rig. This is the basic line hardware that you're going to need. First, you want some rubber beads for making your Carolina rigs. And of course, a decent selection of bobbers. You're going to want small and medium swivel clips. And you're going to want some bead floats for catfishing. Then you're going to need some leader. I like to keep 4-pound test and 2-pound test in my box. Preferably fluorocarbon. Doesn't have to be, but if you want your line to disappear, fluorocarbon is going to be the way to go. You're going to want a decent selection of trout lures. You're going to want a selection of spoons and a selection of spinners. Got one little homemade one that I have right here. Rooster Tail, an older unknown brand. Panther Martins. These little gold and silver lures that have the blade hanging off the tail. They work rather well too. They've got a lot of flash to them when they're moving through the water. For panfish, such as crappie or bluegill, you're going to want a decent selection of crappie jigs, either in tufted tail version or soft plastic. And of course, for the soft plastics, you're going to need a selection of jig heads. For catching kokanee, you're going to want a decent selection of kokanee jigs. And I have to do a shameless plug here. These jigs are called Kokanee Clowns, and they are designed and sold by me. They come in 3 different sizes. I've only got the 5/8 ounce here, but there's the 1.5 inch long 5/8 ounce, there's a 2-inch ounce and a quarter, and then a 2.5 inch 2.5 ounce. And honestly, these things, they work very well. And if you would like to purchase some, look me up under Circus Militia on Facebook, and you should find my ad. This section is probably what's going to take up the most room in your tackle box. Bass lures. Bass, there are so many ways to catch them. You're going to have your top waters, your medium divers, your deep divers, and that's just hard baits. Because of course you're going to have a decent selection of soft baits. For me personally, I use standard worms with a variety of different jig heads. Then you got your little curly-tailed grubs. Been just trying this out this year. These are I think 1.7 prey baits. Scented soft baits. And these are some little redheads that I picked up fairly cheap that they seem to work fairly well. Now we're going to talk about baits. And because this is a video about tackle boxes, I'm only going to cover fish bait that I use that is well preserved and meant for long storage, with one exception. I'll show that here in a moment. First thing, for trout, you can't hardly go wrong with good old power bait, especially if you can find it in garlic scent. Color doesn't really seem to matter a whole lot, but generally I end up picking up the rainbow color. And then you're going to want a jar of fish eggs. So this bottle says power bait. That's not what it is. It's powdered garlic. Whatever trout that you're fishing for, if you dip your bait into this, it'll attract them much better. This is that last bait that I was telling you about. Might be asking yourself, Circus, why in the world do you have a big crushed can of corn? Well, normally this costs anywhere from $2.50 to $4 a can. And since this one fell off the pallet, it got marked down to 99 cents. And honestly, the fish are never going to know the difference. Now, if you keep this unopened and keep it in your tackle box, it'll store for years. But once you open it up, you've only got a few days of shelf life. So honestly, what I like to do is open up the can, get some of those little snack size Ziploc bags, and I'll maybe get 6 bags out of one of these cans, and I put them in the freezer, and I take them out on a morning that I'm going to go out and go fishing. Now, what do you use white corn for? Well, specifically, you use it for kokanee. Some people like to mix tuna fish into it to give it a little bit more flavor, and it has to be white corn. The white corn, it's firmer, it stays on the hooks better, it has more of the enzymes and the scents that the kokanee will go for. And so stay away from yellow corn, only use white corn. And lastly, we're going to cover the basic tools that you're going to need. The dentists, they don't like it very much when you try and bite through your fish line with your teeth. So get yourself a set of fingernail clippers. Some of those fish, especially catfish, they get a hook deep down inside of them. It can be kind of hard to get out. So get yourself a decent set of needle nose pliers. And of course, for gutting your fish and other various work, you're going to want old Uncle Ted's leftover knife that he handed to you. You're going to want a knife sharpener that also has a hook sharpener. I like to have a pair of sunglasses for those hot summer days. And if you can't see very well close up, get yourself some reading glasses like I have to do. And you're going to want some sort of can opener. And of course that is for your corn. Now, something that I don't have in here that a lot of people may want to carry is a stringer for your fish. I prefer to use either a fish bucket, a fish basket, or I like to use the live well that I have on my boat. So hopefully this video has been helpful and it'll get you a good start on making a tackle box for yourself. Until next time, have fun fishing.